Have you ever felt fine about yourself one moment, then suddenly smaller after one interaction? It's not because something terrible happened, but because something subtle shifted. A message was read but not replied to. A compliment did not come. A result did not match the effort you gave. And without meaning to, your sense of value moved with it. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just a quiet internal recalculation, as if your worth was being updated in real time based on things you do not fully control. Many people call this motivation or self-awareness, but often it is something else entirely. When worth is stable, it stays present regardless of outcome or reaction. When it is unstable, it rises and falls with signals outside the self. This does not happen because someone is insecure or unaware. It happens slowly, through patterns that feel normal and even responsible. Here are 10 signs you may be measuring your worth by the wrong things without realizing it. 1. You feel better about yourself only after external confirmation. You notice your confidence increase only after someone acknowledges your effort, appearance, or value. Before that moment, you feel neutral at best, uncertain at worst. The confirmation does not just feel pleasant, it feels stabilizing, as if it temporarily holds you together. When it does not arrive, nothing explicitly collapses, but something quietly weakens. Your mood shifts downward without a clear reason. You may tell yourself you are just being realistic or humble. But the truth is that your internal sense of worth is waiting for permission to exist. It is not self-respect that grows from feedback. It is relief. And relief fades quickly, which is why the need returns again and again. 2. You interpret silence as a personal evaluation. When messages slow, responses shorten, or attention changes, your mind immediately looks inward. You do not assume neutral circumstances. You assume significance. Silence becomes a mirror reflecting your value back at you. You replay what you said, how you said it, what you might have done wrong, not because you are dramatic, but because your worth feels conditional. If interest fades, you assume it means something about you. If energy drops, you assume you caused it. This pattern turns normal pauses into quiet verdicts. Instead of seeing silence as absence of information, you experience it as evidence. And evidence always feels heavier than it truly is. 3. You use productivity to justify your existence. Rest feels uncomfortable unless it is earned. Stillness feels suspicious unless it follows effort. You measure your value by how useful you have been recently. When productivity dips, so does your sense of legitimacy. You may say you enjoy being productive, but beneath that is pressure. A belief that you must contribute constantly to deserve space. Even enjoyment starts to feel conditional. This turns achievement into a requirement rather than an expression. You are not working toward fulfillment, you are working to avoid feeling disposable. Worth becomes something you maintain rather than something you possess, and maintenance never truly ends. 4. You feel anxious when you are not being chosen. Being overlooked does not just disappoint you, it destabilizes you. You do not only want opportunity, you want reassurance. When others are selected and you are not, your mind searches for flaws. You assume selection equals value, and absence equals deficiency. This creates quiet competition, even in neutral spaces. You start watching who is preferred, who is prioritized, who is noticed. Not out of jealousy, but self-protection. Because if worth is assigned externally, then being chosen feels like survival, and not being chosen feels like erasure. This belief keeps your nervous system alert in places meant to feel safe. 5. You adjust yourself to maintain approval. You notice how people respond to different versions of you. Which tone is received better? Which opinion feels safer? Which expression keeps connection intact? Over time, this becomes automatic. You are not being dishonest. You are being adaptive. But adaptation turns into self-monitoring. You stop asking what feels true and start asking what will be accepted. When approval becomes the measure, authenticity feels risky. And risk feels expensive when worth is on the line. So you shrink, soften, or shape yourself to stay valued. 6. You struggle to feel proud without someone witnessing it. Achievements feel incomplete if they are unseen. Progress feels quieter than expected. You may reach goals and feel strangely underwhelmed, not because they are meaningless, but because no one reflected their importance back to you. Pride feels unfamiliar unless it is echoed externally. You wait for acknowledgement before allowing satisfaction to land. Without it, the moment passes quickly. This trains your system to associate value with visibility. If it is not recognized, it barely registers. And over time, internal validation becomes something you forget how to generate. 7. You confuse being needed with being valued. When people rely on you, you feel grounded. When they do not, you feel unnecessary. Support becomes a substitute for worth. You give advice, availability, emotional labor, not just from care, but from identity. If you are useful, you feel secure. If you are not, you feel replaceable. This creates exhaustion that feels noble on the surface, but underneath is fear. Fear that without contribution, you disappear. Worth becomes something you perform rather than something inherent. And performance always carries the risk of burnout. 8. You take outcomes personally, even when they are not. When things do not work out, you internalize the result. A rejection becomes a reflection. A delay becomes a judgment. A failure becomes a definition. You understand logically that circumstances matter, but emotionally you still absorb the outcome. This makes life feel evaluative rather than experiential. Every attempt carries the weight of self-assessment. You are not just trying something, you are proving something. And when results fall short, your self-image absorbs the impact. This keeps worth fragile, because outcomes are never fully controllable. 9. You feel unsettled when praise stops. Compliments once felt nice. Now they feel necessary. When they slow or disappear, something inside you tightens. You wonder if you are slipping, fading, becoming less impressive. This is not arrogance. It is dependency. Praise became evidence that you were doing life correctly. Without it, you feel unverified. The absence feels louder than the presence ever did. And instead of grounding inward, your system scans outward, looking for reassurance that you still matter. 10. You don't know how to define your worth without reference points. If asked why you matter, your answers point outward. What you do, what you give, how you show up for others, how you perform. Rarely how you exist. This makes worth feel abstract and unstable. Something you understand conceptually but cannot feel directly. Without roles, results, or reflection, your sense of value goes quiet. Not gone, just unreachable. This is often the clearest sign. When worth cannot stand alone, it is being measured by the wrong scale. Measuring worth by external signals does not mean you are insecure. It means you learn to survive through responsiveness, through reading rooms, through adapting to feedback. At some point, those skills became identity, and identity quietly replaced self-worth. Understanding this is not about changing behavior or correcting yourself. It is about noticing where value has been outsourced, where it waits for permission instead of residing internally. Sometimes the most stabilizing shift is not building confidence. It is realizing that worth was never something to earn, prove, or maintain. It was simply something that never required measurement in the first place. Worth does not rise or fall with attention, outcomes, or approval. It remains present, even when nothing is being measured or reflected back. Thank you for staying with this reflection. This space remains steady, even when nothing is being proven.